to the Fit Marriage Show, the #1 straight talk fitness show for busy folks. I'm Tony DeLorenzo, and today I'm excited because I get to bring you Ben and Jessa Greenfield with bengreenfieldfitness.com. These two have been married 8 years. They have twin boys. They are busy. They got stuff going on. And in this interview, we sort of dive into a number of areas. I wanted to talk to Ben about endurance sports. He's a top fitness, triathlon, and nutrition expert. And so I really wanted him to dive into that area of endurance sports and how we can make our athletic endeavors still a part of our busy lives and our families. So I hope you enjoy the interview. If you have any questions, make sure to hit me up at tony@fitmarriage.com. So here we go. Ben and Jessa, thanks for joining me here on the Fit Marriage Show today.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Awesome, man. I'm excited to have you guys on. Fit Marriage community, you know, we're talking to you, busy folks, and I couldn't think of a better couple here. I got introduced to Ben via Casey Krejci's team over there from Living Fuel. Got to start checking out Ben, started learning about what they're doing, and they have you guys have a membership site too, right?
Yeah, it's kind of new. Like we launched that like about 5 months ago, but yeah, it's lots of fun.
Okay,
so,
what I found cool though, there's a bunch of stuff with Jessa in there, and then so when I saw that, I wanted to bring them both on because you guys out there are busy just like us. As you heard in the intro, these guys have been married 8 years. They got twin boys. They're running around. So enough of my talk.
Jessa is finishing lunch right now.
I haven't eaten today.
It's right there.
Yes, because we're getting on, and it's about 2:45 in the afternoon. And, you know, they're like, hold on, we got to get the boys down. So, you know, we're all doing what we can to keep ourselves fit and healthy. And I thought, hey, for us, let's learn from these guys because they're doing it too. So I got to stop talking. Let you guys share. How did you guys, let's get a little bit of the backstory about you guys. You know, you told me before we got online that you've been married 5 years before you had the boys. So let's talk a little bit about where your lives were there and how it sort of flipped a switch there once the boys were born.
We love to travel and we love adventure, and like for example, like Jessa drug me over to Italy you know, when we first got married, because she'd been there a couple times and she's like, you got to go see Italy. So we went there, and you know, me, whenever I go somewhere, it has to have some kind of adventure involved, so I didn't just want to go over there
we didn't just go and drink
sit
wine.
around St. Peter's or something. So we rode a bike across all of Ity, and actually 2 bikes. We didn't do 1 bike.
Yeah.
Okay, didn't do the tandem.
No, definitely not. I think our marriage would have ended there.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been good.
Spoken like a true life.
We did lots of adventures, and we traveled around and did like, you know, triathlons and lots of travel. And then we had the boys on purpose, and basically,
well, not twins on purpose.
Life kind of changed. We you know, when Jessa was pregnant with the boys, we did go to Thailand, and I did a couple triathlons down there. And then right afterwards, we went down to Chile with the boys, which was kind of a long trip.
Yeah.
And kind of since then, we've gradually started to realize that kids don't care if they're in South America or Chuck E. Cheese's. And so it's not worth the hassle or the plane tickets or everything. So now we try and keep our adventures when we're with the boys local. And when we can get away, we get away. Like we're both, in about 2 weeks, we're going to go down to California down there and do a triathlon and tack on a couple days in Carmel. But that's a little bit more fewer and far between now that we have the boys, especially for Jessa.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about what you guys, fitness-wise, health-wise, what you were doing before the boys. Ben, let's start with you because you got a pretty awesome resume of what you've done in life, especially when it comes into endurance sports and everything.
We both were collegiate athletes. Jessa ran, and I played tennis. Okay. And then I kind of fizzled out on tennis. Just recently picked it back up, mostly for the kids. Okay. But I fizzled out on tennis and went into water polo and bodybuilding and volleyball and pretty much everything I get my hands on until I finally settled on triathlon as being a sport that I liked.
Which I liked, and I got him into.
Yes, because she was a runner. I used to go out and get my butt kicked by her in running. So that was my motivation to get better at endurance sports, to chase a girl.
Nice.
So triathlon is really what I do a lot of now. You know, I do a ton of coaching and writing in the triathlon industry. And because I studied exercise physiology and biomechanics and human nutrition at an undergraduate and at a graduate level, I do a lot in terms of like fitness programming and fat loss advice too. And I still do lots of triathlons. Like that's kind of how I stay fit. And so that's what I do. I dabble in a lot of sports. I've worked with a lot of professional athletes, amateur athletes, weekend warriors, people who just want to look good in a swimsuit. It ranges, but that's kind of how I spend my day is helping people out, whether they want to do an Ironman triathlon or shed a few pounds. So that's what I do.
And then Jessa, for you, you were saying that you're a runner, or Ben was saying you were a runner in college.
Yeah, originally, yeah.
Okay. And then, so for the audience, and I think this happens a lot in marriages, and Elisa and I did too. I mean, we were really active together before the boys came, and then all of a sudden you get pregnant. What was that transition like for you? And can you talk about how you got through that a little bit? You know,
through pregnancy?
Not pregnant. We know how we get through pregnancy.
I was like, after I had the boys.
Yeah, well, just your fitness. How did you keep that sort of going after the pregnancy?
Yeah. Well, well, first of all, I was extremely active before I had the boys, and then before I came pregnant.
She was pregnant.
I swam all through my pregnancy.
Yeah, lots of swimming.
And then after that, like, I hit that golden 6-week mark and started running again, and just slowly, you know, I'd have to get up early in the mornings because obviously I didn't have a lot of time during the day, so I'd get up early in the morning and just start running. And I basically started with running because I knew that's how I knew how to get into shape.
Okay.
So because that's where my background is, and then, you know, I started taking up slowly. Like, I think about a year later is when I actually started doing triathlons again. So I kind of eased my way into it because there was just too much change all at once to take it all back on. So it was about a year-long process before I actually did a triathlon, and I think it was like maybe 3 months where I won my first 5K after being pregnant. So
nice.
She did a lot of running with the stroller.
Yes.
Like, you know, on top of our list, I think we included this at, you know, in your baby shower list, was like we wanted a double jogging stroller, we wanted a bike trailer. Like, we both realized that if we wanted to keep exercising, we were going to have to figure out how to do it and still include the kids. So, you know, the backpacks for snowshoeing and for walking, just everything we get our hands on that would allow us to keep the boys close to us while we were moving and exercising. We got all that stuff. And, you know, if you add it all up, probably cost us a couple $100, but it's well worth the cost to invest in everything that you need to make taking your kids out to exercise with you pleasant and convenient, and you know, not have to call up a babysitter every time you want to go for a run.
Talk about a little bit about your swimming though during pregnancy. Like that's it, because most of the people, I mean, Elise and I have 2 kids, and you know, in our circle, rarely would you hear somebody who was pregnant back then, and even now when we find people, I mean, to swim would be a sort of abnormal. You know, maybe some walking going on. But how did you do that? I mean, was it just, hey, this is what I'm going to do and I'm going to make it happen?
Well, when I was first pregnant, I swam about, I would say, a total of 4 to 6 miles a week.
Okay.
And then once I found out I had twins, I couldn't really run anymore. They didn't want me running anymore, so I stopped running and all that stuff. But swimming actually was very relaxing on your back. When you're pregnant, your back really hurts, and when you swim, it takes all that pressure off of your back, and
it's actually really therapeutical for the babies too. Swimming is one of those activities that, you know, it envelops the stomach in water, and the babies can actually feel that kind of sloshing and movement. They like it. It's low impact.
Yeah.
You can go as hard or as easy as you want to watch because it's what's it called? An isokinetic movement. So, the harder you push against the water, the harder it's going to push back against you. So you can go easy or hard depending on how you feel. It's something that I highly recommend. And when it comes to exercise, Tony, a lot of what we're taught is just dead wrong. A lot of what we're taught by the medical community in terms of what pregnant women should and shouldn't be doing. Not a lot of it's based on research. A lot of it's very anecdotal, kind of like how with the normal exercising population, we're told to take the number 220 and subtract our age to get our maximum heart rate. Yeah. That's highly erroneous, as is the recommendation from the pediatric or the physician community to keep your heart rate at 140 or 150 when you're pregnant. That also is highly variable. Some women can't go above 120. Some women go up to 180, no problem. Yeah. So exercise, I talked for about an hour about this the other day with a woman whose opinion I highly respect, Cassandra Forsyth, who stayed super, super fit during her pregnancy. Made Jessa look lazy.
Yeah, probably.
and she had a healthy, happy baby, and she did a lot more like the weight training, resistance training, but I mean, she was doing tire flips when she had her baby, and while I don't recommend that for everyone, most of the time, people or women are taught to play it almost too safe when it comes to pregnancy. There's a lot of things that you can do, and as long as you've preferably got someone advising you, or you kind of sort of know what you're doing, and you've talked to somebody like Cassandra or me or you, or read a book, you don't have to follow that kind of strict, keep your heart rate at 140 and only do low-impact exercise.
I never took my heart rate once.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where there's not a ton of really good information out there that's accurate for women who are pregnant that want to stay fit.
All right, so you guys heard it here. So if you want accurate information, get over to Ben Greenfield Fitness.com. They'll set you straight. No, and it's true, because what I hear a lot from, and I'm sure you guys do too, is that the woman, she may be in shape before pregnancy. They're having a good life. They're doing well. She gets pregnant. She gets overweight. She doesn't feel good. The pounds don't want to come off afterwards. And what ends up happening, it ends into this spiral where she doesn't feel confident about herself. There becomes conflict in the marriage now because the guy's like, hey, honey, why aren't you looking good anymore? And if you have some good advice before you go into it or while you're in it and you're doing some healthy exercises and you're feeling good, that way when you come out of it, that transition, instead of it being 3 years, maybe it can be 6 months or 9 months.
And cravings are normal for pregnant women, and Jessa, of course, will tell you that. But there's a huge amount of social pressure and kind of social normalization that makes women think that they kind of have this 9-month window where they can do anything they want. Yeah. It's bad for the baby. It's bad for your health. And a lot of the pounds that come post-pregnancy are a combination of inactivity and just eating crap food. When in reality, during that time of your life, that is the most important time to be trying to avoid things that have toxins and chemicals and preservatives and processed components in them, because everything that you eat, or a lot of what you eat, is winding up in your bloodstream and passing into the placenta and winding up, getting fed to your baby too. So there's a lot of things we do as a culture with especially with pregnancy that I think could be addressed pretty seriously, and for people who want to go through pregnancy and wind up on the other side and feel fit and healthy, there's some things you can do.
Cool. Yeah. Let's hit the nutrition, because that's a big component, and we can hit this on a number of different angles. We can talk about it during pregnancy. I'd also like to hit it more from an endurance athlete side as well. How are you guys making that happen in your household? A big thing I know for myself being an endurance athlete is eating and having to work with Elisa so that I'm getting the proper nutrition I need. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about nutrition and what you guys do. And I know I saw on the website, and I think it's on the membership side of it too, where you guys are talking about, you guys are making your own toothpaste, making your own cleaners, household cleaners. So we can go into that as well, because I think that's cool.
Yeah, that's a huge, that's basically why we started our membership website, because we're we're doing all this stuff, there's got to be other people who need to know that this is it's easy and cheap to be healthy like that. You just kind of have to know what you're doing. So we don't follow a specific diet. We're not like paleo. We're not high carb. We're not low carb. We basically eat healthy, real food, and we try.
Give me some examples of healthy, real food.
Okay, let's go ahead and have you do some of that.
Pretty much almost everything in our house is made from scratch, even to the bread and everything. So nothing real. We have nothing's really processed other than some of the canned foods that we can't get here in the wintertime. So like I would say I make like quinoa pilafs all the time because they're full of proteins, and as an athlete that you need to have a lot of protein. So we have we eat a lot of protein, a lot of eggs.
And a pilaf like that is simple. You make a big batch of quinoa that you can dip into the rest of the week. Yeah. And what do you put? You put vegetables, nori, sesame seeds, chia seeds or hemp seeds. Yeah. Sometimes some cheese, like a feta or usually it's a feta cheese.
Yeah, and we
a bunch of different vegetables.
Yeah.
Lots of like big mix stuff like that. Pizza.
We make homemade pizza, but that's not. It's okay. Yeah. But we have like hummus. I always have homemade hummus in our fridge, which is also a great protein. And we use sprouted wheats always.
Yeah. We just taught a seminar about how to soak, and so everything she does with grains or nuts, it's all soaked and sprouted. So all the chickpeas are soaked before you make hummus, which is super easy to make. And like before Jessa makes bread, she soaks the wheat berries. And, it's just one extra step that takes maybe 10 minutes. Like if you were to go open a refrigerator right now, lots of dark leafy greens and vegetables.
Yeah.
Because we're athletes, also lots of nutrient-dense foods like quinoa, like hummus, like coconut milk, lots of like olives and healthy fats like almond butter.
A lot of supplements too.
Yeah, we do supplements. We do things like take vitamin D and fish oil.
Yeah.
And what else do we have in there in terms of nutrient dense foods? Usually like lean proteins, like omega-3 eggs, free range chicken. Yeah. Okay. We didn't do it this year, but usually we go out and try and find a farmer to buy like a quarter or a half of beef from, grass-fed beef, grass-fed cow. This stuff's all super easy to do. It starts with something as simple as shopping around the perimeter of the grocery store.
Yeah.
And trust me, we were both. Jessa was way more healthy than me, but I was the frozen hot dog, Big Mac.
Really?
There goes my phone. I had one of the least healthy diets. That I had a typical student college athlete diet. Big Mac before tennis practice, pizza or hamburger at night. Salad was iceberg lettuce drowned in ranch dressing. And I've just gradually evolved. And then I went through the bodybuilding phase. Eating lots of tuna and protein shakes. Okay. So it probably took a couple years off my liver and my kidneys. Yeah. And then we gradually developed into just eating only foods that we could recognize and that we knew. And we've gradually developed from there into making those foods even more healthy, doing things like soaking and sprouting them. And
it's a process. I don't know. A lot of people want to bite it all off at one time and just make the transition, and that's not the way to do it, because it really does, right now I've gotten to the point where I'm sprouting and growing all these things, even doing my own kombucha and all this stuff, but this has taken me 8 years, over time. I'm like, I don't expect people to be able to, take this all on at one time, because it does, so a lot of it requires some planning. And, you just got to learn how to do that. So
yeah. And we're very into trying as much as possible to eat dinner as a family. And dinner is typically, a nice healthy carbohydrate, sweet potato or yam or quinoa or some kind of rice pilaf with some type of lean protein. Usually it's like a fish or a chicken or a beef. And sometimes it's just like nuts and seeds. And sometimes we'll even like throw some tofu in there. And then lots of veggies. In the summer, we do a garden. And that Jessa spends a lot more time in the garden than me. But, we try and get our own vegetables as much as possible. But in the winter, we can still go to the grocery store and pick up the veggies. Everything you recognize. And we don't have a magic formula, eat 5 times a day or eat 3 times a day. We eat when we're hungry, and we eat real food. And that's basically how our diet goes. And, obviously we could talk for hours about meal planning.
Oh,
but that just kind of scratches the surface of what we do.
Right. No, and that's cool. And I think one of the cool points I like from you, Jessa, was this is a process. Yeah. So if you're trying to get somewhere, start.
Yeah.
Like
Ben said, it's as simple as shopping on the outside perimeter of the grocery store.
Yeah, I mean that's where I start a lot of people is start at the perimeter of the grocery store. And I even have some clients who I work with who will say, well, I heard you talk about this on bengreenfieldfitness.com, how I should be supplementing with a probiotic on a daily basis and taking a digestive enzyme and rhodiola and cordyceps. I'm like, back off. We're starting you with the basic, with basically just like kind of the reboot of your diet, giving you a bunch of real food, and we'll gradually work in some of the more advanced concepts from there. But initially, just getting real food on your plate and trying to work out anything that basically your grandparents wouldn't have recognized is a good place to start.
Nice. So you're doing the KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Right? I mean, and I think that's a big thing in today's day and age where everything is so fast, everything's moving so quickly. People jump from one thing to the next to the next to the next, and never find a good plan or something that really works for them because they jump too quick.
Yeah.
It sounds like with you guys, I mean, you guys have just been working this slowly for 8 years.
And I think that's something that's important too, is it's okay to go out and try stuff. I mean, if you want to go try a raw vegan diet and see how your body does with that,
which I've done,
go for it. We tried that. Food is fun. It's okay to experiment. Most people think it's too serious. You're not going to destroy your body if you go raw vegan for 6 months and it doesn't work out for you. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. If you want to go paleo and see how paleo feels, go for it. I think a lot of people are afraid because there's so much preached to us about what diet is perfect, when in reality, if you find a diet that you like and that's sustainable for you, it's likely that by filling in just a few extra holes, you can get what you need.
Really cool.
Like you even take an example like that, like a raw vegan diet. You could probably make it work for you if you threw some extra B12 and took some amino acids and filled in the holes a little bit, get on a fish oil or like a high quality omega-3, and you could probably do pretty okay on a raw vegan diet. You take a paleo diet and you make sure that you're not doing what a lot of people on a paleo diet do, which is eat a ton of meat and not enough fiber, and simply adapt it. Throw some gorilla-based leafy greens in there, and and you make the paleo diet fairly healthy. So, we are definitely not of the persuasion that there's one diet that works for anybody. But what it comes down to is any diet that has you eating real food and doesn't have any type of
preservatives or
like some kind of magic thing you're supposed to eat within the diet that somehow keeps whoever prescribed the diet to you in business. Is an okay diet.
Yeah. And again, go check out Ben's website. And I'm sorry I forget, I got your podcast, but what's it called again if they go on iTunes?
If you just do a search for Ben Greenfield on
It'll
iTunes, I've got 7 podcasts, but the one that is kind of the main nutrition fitness for the average person to understand is the Ben Greenfield Fitness podcast.
That's the one. Grab that. I subscribe to it and I dig it. So I just want people to know where to go get it if they're digging what you're saying. And if you like the way Ben is just sort of talking, that's the way it is in his podcast. So
or which podcast to steer clear from if you're totally repelled by everything that I say.
Yeah, it could go either way. Yes. I'm just saying. All right, so I want to get to the endurance stuff because that's what I am. I'm an endurance athlete and I love it. And so let's get into this because endurance athletes have a very interesting mindset, and you two can probably understand this. We get very tunnel visioned. Our training is very important to us. The way we eat is very important to us, to the detriment sometimes to everything and everybody around us.
Yeah.
Has this happened in your guys' marriage?
I think that it's been tempting at times, but you know what? When I think about it, me coming from like this power speed background in athletics, bodybuilding and tennis and that type of thing taught me how to work out hard, how to do things like interval training, how to throw down like a high quality workout and then just be done with it. And I think that's given me a really solid ability to be able to do something like Ironman triathlon and train less than the average person does.
Okay.
You know, I'm a 9:45 to 10-hour Ironman athlete, and my maximum training week is 16 to 17 hours, and that's like a big training week. An average training week is 12 hours.
Okay.
And you know, for a lot of people, that still seems like a lot of time. You know, it's like 90 minutes, sometimes
we have
2 hours
friends
a day.
who 20
Yeah,
hours.
but I mean, yeah, the average is 20 to 25 a week.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that's super important is know how to do interval training, know how to go hard, and know how to steer clear of joining your friends for a 6-hour bike ride just because everybody's going on a 6-hour bike ride. Yeah, you'd probably put a lot of good endurance into your body if you did it, but probably about a good 3 hours of that 6-hour bike ride is time that you don't need to be riding, that you could be spending with your kids or your wife or your family. So that's one thing is the interval training. The other thing that's really important is this nutrition component that we talked about. I find that the healthier my diet is, the less I have to train to be able to maintain fitness.
Yeah.
And it's that simple. If you can get your diet dialed in, you can get away with a lot less training because there's a lot less acidity and inflammation and inhibited recovery occurring within your body. The same goes for supplementation. You know, if you're on like a vitamin D, a magnesium, a fish oil, and a green supplement, those are kind of like the basic 4 I recommend to everybody. You're giving yourself a big step up when it comes to recovery and performance. Mm-hmm. The last thing that we kind of touched on was trying to include family as much as possible when you can. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times that includes something as simple as, again, utilizing the stroller or the bicycle
and
trailer.
all going out together and doing it.
Yeah, and other times it includes me throwing the bike in the car when we go somewhere, like when we drive 80 miles down to visit the grandparents in Moscow, me throwing my bike in the car, and when it's time to go home, I ride home and Jessa drives. So sometimes you got to work training sessions into family events like that.
Yeah.
And that's also important. So yeah, those are some of the things that we do. I'm sure you probably have more questions, but
no, and I think just talking about the intensity is key, and I've learned that over the years too. Mine was going way out of bounds, you know.
Yeah.
Just Saturday would be a long 125-mile ride. Sunday would end up being another 60 to 70-mile ride, and I mean it was just like come home. Yeah, you can recover and you're doing everything you need to do, but gosh, all of a sudden you're sitting on the couch and I'm looking at my couch and I'm going, man, I would just sit there and be asleep, and Elise would go, well, crap, you just spent 14 hours this weekend on your bike or 12 hours on your bike and now you're doing nothing.
Yeah, and a couple of thoughts on that. Number one, if you really want to get a big weekend, all it takes is 1 week of high endurance training, and sometimes that can set you up for the next 6 months. So I actually haven't done this in a year, but for 3 years when I was doing Ironman training, at least 1 week of that year, I went off to a camp. I was either teaching the camp or co-coaching at the camp or attending the camp. And a camp is something where you get killed. You train 40 hours. You roll out of bed and you ride 5 hours, and they got you running 2 hours, an hour later, and swimming 3,000 yards in the morning. You go to a camp for 1 week and you work that out with your spouse. You schedule
emotionally,
everything.
It's a lot
you
easier.
get permission. 1 week of hardcore training can be just as good as 12 weeks of missing your spouse and your family every weekend. That's important. And then also, if you've never been like a college athlete or you've never done any of the hard stuff, just quit training for a week and go find your local CrossFit gym and have them kick your butt for a week. And you'll come out the other side knowing what it feels like to do high-intensity interval training. I use CrossFit as an example because it really is, CrossFit done long-term is almost too much. But if you don't know how to train with high intensity, go to a CrossFit gym where their mascot is Pukey the Clown. And you will learn within a week of training what high intensity is. And that ought to be enough for you to kind of get that mental feeling of, oh, that's what a high-intensity interval is. Because a lot of people don't do it. They think high-intensity interval means that you're kind of breathing hard, when in reality it means you're
It means your lungs are burning and you're
tasting blood in your mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a harsh.
I don't like scare people away. And everybody can do it. You know, I have 40-year-old women who've never worked out in their life out doing, 10 by 30 second treadmill repeats as high intensity interval sessions. So they're doing great. But it's just a matter of getting to that point where you understand what it is and know the feeling.
And that is huge. I think, like, when it comes to racing and sort of thing, is if you don't even know how to get to that place where it's like that intense, you will never get there when you're racing ever.
Yeah.
Jessa, you brought up something great when Ben was talking about the 1 week retreat, basically camp, be it triathlon, cycling, whatever it's going to be. One thing you brought up that I thought was really cool is the emotional aspect of it. Talk to us about that.
Well, what I think when Ben goes off to a camp or something like that, or teaches a camp, it's something that's planned out. You don't expect to see your husband, and you don't expect him around doing things or helping you out. So it's, for me, I'm like, if I'm not expecting that, then I'm not let down. So for me, that's a big deal. I'm just like, because if he goes off for, 6 hours on a Saturday that I was planning on him helping me in the yard, I'm going to be really let down by that, whereas if he says, hey, I'm going for a week, you got the kids, do what you got to do. If you need to take them down to the grandparents, take them to the grandparents, get your things done. I'm at least prepared and am not emotionally let down by him, dropping the ball because he has, a weekend of serious hardcore training. So for me, that's how it feels for me.
So it sounds like there's a lot of good communication that's happening in between you guys, Ben, especially when you're doing your triathlon stuff and you're working out, be it a bike, maybe you do a bike run combo type deal on a Saturday. You're planning this out and you're letting Jessa know ahead of time what's happening.
Definitely.
Yeah, but a lot of people hear that and they say, okay, so as long as I tell my spouse, then it's okay. But there's still the issue that...
Unfortunately, it's not that easy.
We are in a sport where it's very easy to get addicted to exercise and it's very easy to train too much because either everyone around you is doing it or the dopamine and endorphin release that you get from a long training session and the mental feeling of self-confidence or self-fulfillment that you get after a long training session keeps you coming back for it week after week when, in fact, you don't necessarily need something like that. Typical Ironman triathlete, they need to do that epic workout in those final 12 weeks leading up to the race about 3 times, and you're good to go. But the fact is that most Ironman triathletes are doing that every weekend for each of those 12 weeks or 15 weeks or 20 weeks leading up to the race, either just because all their friends are doing it or because that's what it takes for them to feel good about themselves. And, for something like that, it simply takes understanding that it's not necessary. You can go out, say for Ironman triathlon, you can go out and have 3 sessions where you literally are going out and you're doing a 4 or 5 hour bike ride on Saturday, and then you're getting up Sunday morning and you're running 2 or 3 hours, and somewhere in there you're also throwing in a 4,000 meter swim. And you can do that in week 10, week 8, and week 4. And then all the other weekends, you can be working out, for example, 90 minutes to 2 hours on Saturday and 90 minutes to 2 hours on Sunday. You will maintain that endurance just fine.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome. And that's what I've come to realize over the years. But I love it, man. Again, Ben, I'm talking out to the fit marriage community again here. Ben's the real deal, guys. I mean, if you're looking at getting into endurance stuff, he knows what he's talking about. You can hear him talking about it here. And take it from somebody who didn't know squat and had to learn the hard way. And I hear what Ben's saying because this is what I do with my double centuries now. I mean, I used to go out and I used to just kill myself for nothing. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And now I just throw in a big old fat base, which is usually my 2 to 3 hour rides. I got a double century. I just sort of, for me personally, I just do a nice little stair step a couple of weeks before. 125 is my max ride. Yep. Take a week off, do a little spin, and hit the ride. And I can do 10.5, 10:45s on the flatter courses.
Yeah, exactly. So you're at 60% of total volume, and what a lot of people don't realize is you don't have to go full volume. I just raced down in the Caribbean. I had the bike portion of that race was 62 miles long. I never got in a ride that was longer than 40 miles. I just never really had a chance to do it. Yeah. And I had the third fastest bike split of the day. A lot of times it's not about going the distance. It's about just having the intensity and the muscle and the strength. And usually the endurance is there. The human body has the greatest capacity of endurance than any animal on the face of the planet. You don't necessarily need to train the endurance. If you've got the speed and the intensity, a lot of times the endurance will take care of itself, and all you need are just a couple of sessions that kind of get you close to your race distance, and everything else can just be focusing on the quality.
Yeah, let's go back to the communication, because you were bringing that up, Ben, and I thought that was we need to hit on this. It's just not telling your spouse, I'm going to do this, and it can go either way. I mean, I've met athletes who the wife is very intense and the husband's sort of hanging out. But go back to that, Ben, because I think you've had a lot of experience with this, and you can sort of share a little bit more of how maybe one spouse to the other, how they can interact when they're trying to get their training in.
Well, of course, it should go without saying that your spouse should know your schedule. I mean, to a certain extent, whether it is actually sitting down on Sunday before the week and kind of going through your training sessions for that week, or if you're like me and you kind of have no clue what your training session is going to be until 24 hours before it happens, at least, in the morning or the night before, letting your spouse know what's kind of on tap for that day, and also asking them what they have scheduled. Do you have plans for tomorrow? And trying to work things out so that you guys can schedule things and be able to work everything in. Like, today, Jessa had tennis from 9 to 11. She didn't know till yesterday, so she called me, at 10 a.m. yesterday and said, can I take off from 8:30 to 11:30? And I looked at my schedule and I said, well, I'm supposed to run in the morning. And so what I did was I got my work done while I put in a movie for the kids, and then I took them out on my run with me, and then we went and met Mom and traded off, and I went home to work, and she took the kids, and that's the way our life is, kind of on a daily basis, and it sounds kind of hectic, but I mean, you kind of can't have your cake and eat it too when it comes to doing something like endurance sports. You got to realize that the schedule is going to be erratic, it's going to be hectic if you have kids, if you have a spouse, and it just comes down to trying to work things out and schedule on a day-to-day basis if need be. And ours usually ends up being on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
Cool. Well, I also think having like a dinner at the end of the day where everybody's expected to be there and everything. Yeah. And like that's huge to me, just because there's this allotted time where nobody's doing anything. Yeah.
And it's at a different time.
And you're all coming,
Sometimes it's in the morning where we're like, okay, dinner tonight is at 7.
So we're going to have breakfast together.
Yeah. And then some days it's at 5:30. So, I mean, it can vary. It doesn't have to be at the same time every night.
That's great. No, and I think that bringing that meal together where everybody can just sit down and talk and discuss is great. Sometimes I wish Elise and I could talk more, but when you have an 8 and a 5-year-old going like this, you sort of don't get it.
I know.
Our kids are at that age where sometimes you're sort of trying to deal with them, but we do that every night, and it is killer. If anything, it puts Elise and I in the kitchen together. We're making food together. Abby, our youngest, will jump in. She loves cooking. Alex, he doesn't care. He's going to be sort of like you, Ben, in college. He's just sort of like, whatever. Even though we're sort of steering him, I can see it already happening. So he just sort of roams in and out. But it is that time when we just go, hey, let's turn these things off. It's just going to be us for now. Work, everything else we got going on.
Yeah, I think that's huge.
And that leads me to my next question is, you guys got a load of stuff going on. You guys got a lot. You guys are busy. And so how do you stay focused? And you guys live in the Great Northwest.
Are we focused?
Sometimes I feel a little scattered.
Yeah, I understand. But you guys live in the Northwest where you guys have winter. You guys get snow, you get rain, you get cold stuff. So how do you even stay focused sometimes on fitness and staying healthy during those long winter months when, goodness, the snow just keeps piling up?
I think for me, this is another one of those KISS things. If I'm signed up for a race, I stay fit. If I'm not, I don't. I mean, that's basically what it is for me. So I just make sure I'm always signed up for something. Sometimes it's a tennis tournament. Sometimes it's a triathlon. Sometimes it's been 3-on-3 basketball tournament. But I always make sure there's something where, because I'm a very like, I'll admit I'm a proud person. I like to look good when I'm out exercising or competing. I'm very competitive. And so if I'm signed up for an event, I'm going to try as hard as I can to make sure I don't look dumb when that time rolls around. So that's what keeps me fit. Yeah, like bone density and cardiovascular health and all that stuff is nice, but that doesn't motivate.
Drive you to the gym.
Yeah, when I go to the gym, it's because I know I'm going to be toeing the line against David and Tom and Dan and Frank in 3 months, and I want to beat them. It's not because I want a strong heart. So that's what motivates me.
All right.
I think that if I have a race that keeps me going, that keeps me training, but also for me, I think it's really important. I want when my kids are older and they want to play sports, I don't want to be the parent where they don't want them playing with them. I want them to want me on their team, and I want them to, I want to be able to hit the tennis ball with them and, maybe go for a run and them have their bikes next to me. That's important to me, is just being able to not only just keep up with them, but like be as competitive and as good as them for a while. I don't want to, I don't want to I don't want to play bad sports with them.
we were talking about this yesterday too. There's like the whole productivity component where if I wake up in the morning and I know that I've got like an hour and a half bike ride in the afternoon, then I'm going to bust butt to get my work done and get everything done that I need to, so that I can get my exercise session in. And if that's not there, a lot of times I kind of, I procrastinate and kind of dilly-dally around with work. And, for me, the exercise session also is a way to kind of keep me productive with everything else.
How do you work with folks that go, you know what, I don't have the schedule you have, Ben and Jessa. I get up at 6 a.m. I'm at work at 7. I'm home at 4. What do you tell them?
That'd be a pretty sweet schedule. If you're up at 6, because like full time, my job is to take people who normally have like typical jobs like that and plan their exercise sessions. You have a planned exercise session where if you can get up in the morning and do a quick 20-minute fasted exercise session to get your body's fat burning enzymes active the rest of the day, great. Set your alarm clock 20 minutes early. You stay on your feet as much as you can during the day, even if that means standing up, and for every hour that you're sitting, standing up and doing 25 bodyweight squats. You alternate after work every day between after work on one day doing high-intensity cardiovascular intervals, the next day doing, for example, a resistance training session. And something like that is very, very regular and actually far more simple for me to program than the people who are a little bit like me and kind of have a schedule where sometimes they don't know it until they get up in the morning that day in terms of what's on tap for that day. Like today I was in conference calls from 8 to 10 a.m. and then, I took the kids out for the run, and then I was back in calls from noon to 1, and, then I'll be back at work tonight, and some nights I'm working till midnight, and some days I'm working till 3 p.m. So, I think that regular schedule, if you're able to write it down, plan it, and actually have a program that you're doing, can sometimes be easier to stick to than an erratic schedule. It's just a matter of you prioritizing, for example, stopping at the gym on the way home from work, or setting your alarm clock 20 minutes early so you can get that fat burning session in before you head out, or putting the phone down and standing up from your desk to go do your bodyweight squats, that type of thing.
Nice. That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, as we come to an end here, it's been awesome. We've gone all over the place, but I think it's been great having both of you on, because I think Ben and I can agree, sometimes you want to get that other side, and having you on, Jessa, was fantastic.
Well,
I appreciate you joining us here. So
you kept my left leg warm.
My right hip is
kind of like half sitting on my lap right now.
So they want to find you. We've said where to go, bengreenfieldfitness.com. You guys, just thank you very much for joining me. And do you have any last words you want to tell the Fit Marriage community here?
It's doable.
Yeah, it's doable.
Awesome, Jessa.
I get my fulfillment out of helping people out. So if you need help with anything, don't hesitate to use the contact form on my website. Get a hold of me. I'll point you in the right direction. A lot of people think I just work with elite athletes, but I don't. If you come my way and you need help, I'll get you where you need to go.
Sweet. All right, you guys. Thanks again. Have a fantastic rest of your day.
Thanks. You too.
Thanks.
Bye. Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview I had with Ben and Jessa. I love bringing couples on because it really gets to show both sides of what's happening in our busy lives and in marriages. I hope you got a lot out of that. Right now, we have recently launched our Ready, Set, Go 5K Blueprint. It's a training program, 6 weeks long, that will get you ready for your first 5K or your best 5K. Don't miss it. There's a workout calendar, videos, strength conditioning, yoga, stretching videos, all for you. All you need to do is go to readysetgoblueprints.com, pick it up, and go run that first 5K. Enjoy your week. I'm glad you joined me here. And again, if you need to get a hold of me, Tony at fitmarriage.com.